Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can connect a web application to an RDS instance and use it to write its data to it. And then we are going to visualize the data as well. So I want to clarify the motive of this video. If you see the two sentences or the two questions highlighted in yellow, so how a web application can connect to an AWS RDS instance and use it to write its data to it is one of the objectives. The other objectives of this video is to how to visualize the data in real that the website is writing to the RDS database instance. So these two can be important interview questions as well. So to answer these two questions, I've made this video. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a very powerful web development platform called Drupal. So Drupal has many versions. We are going to use Drupal CMS. So Drupal CMS stands for Content Management System. So it's a platform that is used to build your websites, your blogs. Okay, and I mean you can develop many types of applications. In my previous organization, I used to work with a team of Drupal developers where I used to manage these multiple Drupal sites. So it is actually a very powerful tool and it is very secure as well. So if I talk about in today's world, so there are some big or some famous websites like Pinterest, the NBA and League of Legends using Drupal to build their website. And this example I've taken from AWS's documentation. It's a very good tutorial that they've given to to clarify the concepts around RDS instances in general and how you can use it to connect to the application. But in this video, I have simplified it or I've customized it so that it can be more suitable to the audience. All right. All right. So so that's what we are going to do. So when we install Drupal for the web application development part, we need to install certain packages as part of it. So we're going to install the Drupal package itself. Then we are going to do PHP packages, so multiple PHP packages, and we're going to use Apache HTTP, Apache HTTPD as well. So it's all part of the Drupal CMS installation. Okay, so the Drupal site will store its data to an AWS RDS instance. The RDS instance is going to be a MySQL based instance. All right, so whatever I'm doing in this video, I have documented each and every step in the step section, so you can follow along if you want to practice it. That is that I highly recommend that you build your own projects. Okay, so that's the best way to learn. All right, so if I talk about the steps, we are going to create the RDS instance first. That is going to use MySQL engine. Okay, and I'm going to configure security group. So we're going to talk about security also in this video, because that is one of the most important things when you're deploying an application, or especially if you're using an RDS instance, because a database is the most critical thing for an IT organization. So you should know how to secure it. Okay, so though it is a demo, but I'm just going to give you very high level information around the security groups that I use to control the inbound and outbound traffic on RDS instances. Okay, then step 2 is to create an EC2 instance. So we will use one single EC2 instance and we will use it to configure our Drupal packages for web application part. And also on the same EC2 instance, I will install MySQL client application so that I can interact with my RDS instance. Okay, then configure the RDS connection with Drupal from the UI. So once we have installed all the packages, then we can configure our Drupal application right from the UI by accessing the public IP of the EC2 instance. Okay, because this website is going to be public facing. So yeah, so that is going to be step 3. Then step 4 is where we try to generate some random data from the application so that we can see how the data is being written to the RDS instance in the backend. Okay, and then we are going to use MySQL client application that we have installed on the same EC2 instance to visualize what data has been written. Because if you have watched my last video, I spoke about relational databases in general. The relational databases stores its data in the form of tables. The tables will have rows and columns. So whatever data our application is going to write to this database, we are going to visualize it using this MySQL tool in real time. Okay. So step 1 is to create the RDS instance. RDS instance creation takes generally from 5 to 10 minutes at least. So to save some time, I've already created one for this video. And if you have any doubts related to creation of the RDS instance, you can go watch my last video. The URL of that video is given in this documentation itself to understand how to create an RDS instance from scratch. Then step 2 is we are going to create this EC2 instance. We are going to use Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. And then I have documented each and every command that you need to run to configure your Drupal based web application server. Okay, so we're going to create this instance right now. So let's go to my AWS management console where you are seeing I already have one database instance created. Okay, and let's go to EC2 instances section, and I'm going to launch an instance. So let's just name it as, it can be any name. So let's name it Drupal EC2. And as I mentioned, I'm going to use Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. I highly recommend using it because I've tested these commands and it works well. So on the other operating systems, it might or might not work. Okay, so I'm going to use Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. Instance type, let it be t2.micro. Choose a key pair that you can use to log into the instance. I'm going to use demo-kp2. Then under network settings, I'm going to edit it slightly. So my RDS instance is in US East 1A availability zone. I'm going to use the same for my EC2 instance as well. So I'm going to use US East 1A. This is not a mandatory step. You can use any availability zone, any subnet. Okay. For this video, I'm only going to utilize the default VPC in this region, Northern Virginia, US East 1A, but you can choose an region of your choice. You can use your custom VPC as well if you have in your AWS account. Okay, then I'm going to assign then I'm going to enable auto assign public IP so that my instance gets the public IP so that I can use it to SSH into it, and I can use it to access it from my laptop. Then I'm going to use a security group that I have maintained just for this video, which is going to be demo-sg, and we'll be talking about the security part as well, which is really critical. Okay, then advanced network configuration, don't need to do anything, leave it as it is. Configuration storage, we just need 8 GB of storage, GP3, that's fine. If you have any doubts related to any of these EC2 options, I have created one video on EC2 instances deep dive, which is going to cover each and every aspect of an EC2 instance. So you can go watch that in the same playlist. Okay, so let's just click on to launch instance. We don't need to make any further changes. So we are on step 2. Step 1 is already done. So step 2 is to create the EC2 instance and configure your web application part. Okay, and MySQL. So I'm going to use MobiXterm SSH client app to SSH to my EC2 instance. You can use any SSH client app of your choice. Copy this example command from the SSH client tab, go to your client app, in my case MobiXterm, and hit enter. Okay. All right. So I'm connected to my EC2 instance. All right, and let's see what next we have to do. So as I mentioned, each and every step is documented, so you won't have any problem following along. So first thing is I have to configure my MySQL client application that I'll be using to interact with the RDS instance from the EC2 instance. So to do that, I'm going to install this package called MariaDB 105. It's going to give me the MySQL utility. So copy and paste. Okay, it's going to fail. Okay, here let me tell you the reason, and it's a good thing that it failed actually. So why did it fail? Because of the security group rules that I have maintained, because those rules are very restrictive right now. So let's go to AWS Management Console and see the security groups, the security group for the EC2 instance. So if I go to security, this is the security group rule. Let me open it in a new tab. So if you see, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to install a package that is available on a remote repository on internet. So I need the outbound connection to internet to be allowed for this type of connection. Okay, but in my security group that is attached to my EC2 instance, if you go to outbound rules, you won't see that connection. So I just have this one connection which is giving access to the RDS instance. Okay, so to enable this connection so that I can download these packages that are available on remote repository on internet, I need to make an adjustment. So I need to add another rule. Okay, so I'll just keep this rule as it is. It is the MySQL Aurora role, which is used for the RDS connection. So add rule, let me do all traffic here. Custom will be anywhere IPv4 because I'm going to connect to internet to download the package. So I'm going to use 0.0.0/0 all traffic. Save rules. Okay, so the rule is added to my security group of the EC2 instance. Now if I try to run the command again, it's going to work. Okay, so sometimes when things fail, it's a good thing so that you can learn something extra then and there. Okay, so now I've installed the package. Now let's see what next. Then we're going to use an environment variable to store the host name information of the RDS instance. Okay, so there are multiple ways by which you can establish it. What I'm trying to do is, on this particular terminal that I'm logged in, I'm using a temporary environment variable. So I'm storing the information of MySQL_host to store the information of the endpoint of the RDS. Okay, so for what we have to do is we have to go to I have to go to my AWS Management Console on the RDS dashboard, choose my RDS instance and go to connection and security and copy this endpoint. So this is the MySQL_host value, because when you're using MySQL CLI, you have to specify the host. So either you can specify the host there, or you can store it in a environment variable like this on this terminal, and then you can just just run the command without using the this particular variable or this particular parameter from your CLI, because that value is going to be picked up from this environment variable. Okay, so in simple terms, it is just to store the RDS endpoint information in an environment variable that will be used later by the MySQL application to connect to the RDS instance. Okay, which is this one. So after I've stored the information of the RDS endpoint, I don't need to specify this MySQL_host while trying to connect to the RDS instance here. else I have to use this particular information in the CLI in this command also. But since I've already exported the value on this terminal, I don't have to do this. I just have to specify the name of the database inside my RDS instance that I want to use to connect to it, and I have to specify the master username of the RDS instance and its password. Okay, so here you have to replace the name with the name of the database. If you remember from my last video, I spoke about that one AWS RDS instance can be a combination of one or more different databases. So those database names, one of the database names will come up here. Okay, so when you create the RDS instance, you have to create one database. So you give one name there, which will be the default database name. Okay, so if I go back to my AWS management console, if I go to configuration, I can see the name of the database. It is DrupalDB. Okay, so this is the default database inside my RDS instance. So I can use the same name here. So I can do DrupalDB. Okay, and master user, again, if we go to configuration, you can see the master username also. In my case, it is admin. So whatever you have chosen at the time of creation of the RDS instance, you have to use the same. And you should also know the password of this username, admin username. So user will be admin, like this. And then it's going to ask for the password. Okay, so just ensure that you have made note of the password, and once you do that, you're able to connect to your RDS instance. Okay, now how I'm able to connect to this RDS instance from this EC2 instance? So let's take a look at the security. So this is the instance. Okay, and this is the security group of the instance. Okay, so if you see here on the inbound, I've allowed only two things. Okay, on the inbound, I've allowed only SSH traffic from my own IP only. So this is the IP of my laptop, so only I can SSH to this instance. Okay, then apart from this, I've allowed port HTTP, the HTTP traffic on port 80 from everywhere, because this instance is going to host a public facing website. So that is why I've allowed everyone. But if I want to make restrictive, if I want to restrict the access, I can just allow my IP address, and in that case only I will be able to access the application hosted on this instance. But since it is a public facing website, will be used by multiple users. Okay, so it's allowed from everywhere. On the outbound rules, if I see, I'm allowing this all traffic because I need to download some packages on remote repositories. Okay, for which I don't have specific IP address and port information, so I'm using all traffic, all protocol, all port in my case. But apart from that, if you see, I've also allowed the outbound connection to 3306, so which is important for this connection to work. Okay, so this connection only works when you allow port 3306, which is the port of your RDS instance. Okay, if I go to RDS, if we go to connectivity and security, you can see the port name, the port number is 3306, which is the default MySQL port. Okay, so when you create your RDS instance, you get to choose one port. So the default one is 3306. So you have to allow this this port on the outbound rules of your EC2 instance also. Okay, so I'm allowing this only from the security group of the RDS instance, which is the default security group. Okay, if you see here, security group is default. The security group ID is 387C64. 387C64. So this connection is only allowed from the to the RDS instance only. Okay, so that is why I'm able to connect to this RDS instance. Also, we need to verify the security group of the RDS instance also. So on the RDS instance, if I see the security group the default security group. So let's review the rules of this security group as well. So default security group is what I've attached to my RDS instance, and if I see on the inbound rules, I'm allowing port 3306 only from the security group of the EC2 instance, which means that only and only this EC2 instance can connect to my RDS instance and no one else. And that's what we want to achieve. And since it is the database, the security part is the most critical part, okay, because data is the most crucial thing for an IT company. So you have to ensure that your security group rules for your database instance, okay, is the it has the zero trust policy, okay, when it comes to security group rules, both the inbound and outbound. So I'm only allowing single connection for my EC2 instance. If you go to outbound, I'm not allowing anything, because this RDS instance does not need any outbound connection, okay. It does not need to connect to any RDS and any any outbound connection. So it is not needed to have any outbound rules. But in inbound, since the EC2 instance is going to connect to this instance, so I need to allow 3306 on from the security group of the EC2 instance, okay. And that is why, so by maintaining these rules in the two security groups, I'm able to connect to my RDS instance from my EC2 instance. Okay, that's fine. So I've spoken about security also. Now let's see what is next. So just remember that whatever commands which are in brown color are the commands that you can run on your EC2 instance. So these are the normal Linux commands, and whatever commands you see in blue are the commands that will be run on the MySQL CLI and not Linux EC2 instance. Okay, so after this, the next is commands to create a database user to access the database. This user will be used by the application to connect to the database. So what we are trying to do here is, whatever database we have inside our RDS instance, we are going to create another user that will be this MySQL user, okay. So that user will have access to the database that is already created in our RDS instance, that is DrupalDB, okay. So I'm going to create one user called Drupal. The password for this user will be Drupal, and this user will have access to this database, which is part of our RDS instance. So let's just try to run the command in sequence. This query OK means the command ran successfully. So these are the MySQL commands. Query OK means the commands run successfully again, and next is exit. So let's just come out of it. So this is done. Then go to next steps. So next, again, we need to run some commands to configure our web application. So till now we haven't installed our main web application packages that is going to be used to configure our Drupal based website. Okay, so we will be installing some Drupal packages, the PHP packages, and Apache package as well. Okay, so first thing is to install Apache, which is represented by httpd. So just copy and paste this command. Apache is installed. Then we are going to configure this Apache package. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to make a change to the main configuration file of Apache package. Okay, so this is the file when you install the package. So this is the default location of the main configuration file of your Apache package. It is stored in /etc/httpd/conf/httpd.conf. Okay, so let's open this file and make one change that is given in the screenshot. So if you scroll to the file, you just have to make one change to this setting, which is allow override. So by default, it will be set to none. From that, we have to change it to all as given here, and it is going to be line number 156. I mentioned it here. Okay, so in my Vim, I can use this feature called set number to to put the line numbers on all the lines in the file like this, and then I can scroll to line number 156. This is a line, and I have to change this allow override to all as given in the screenshot like this. Escape, save and quit. All right, then we have to restart the service to apply the changes. So we will restart our HTTPD Apache package to apply these changes. Done. Next, now we are going to install all the other packages that we need as part of our Drupal web application platform. So just copy and paste these commands in sequence. So here you can see I'm installing multiple PHP packages. I'm also installing. I'm also downloading this main Drupal file. Then I'm renaming this Drupal tar file. Okay, and then I'm going to then I'm going to unzip this tar file. Okay, so that's all I'm trying to do here with these commands. Okay, this is done. Next is rename this package to a more meaningful name. So if I do ls now, you will see tar.gz. Okay, so I've just renamed this file to this name, tar.gz. Next is I'm going to run this command. If I do ls now, you will see this Drupal-10.2.6. So I just unzipped this tar file. Okay, next I'm going to just rename this particular folder, this particular directory to Drupal. Okay, so if I do ls now, you will see the folder has been renamed from Drupal-10.2.6 to Drupal. Then I'm going to change my directory to this directory. So I'm going to cd into this, and I'm going to copy everything using the rsync command. So what I'm trying to do here is, if I do ls here, I will see all the different application files for Drupal. So I want to copy these files. So I'm trying to copy all these files from this location to my main directory, from where the Apache serves the content. Apache HTTPD serves its content. So I'm copy everything from this directory to this directory. Okay, it's going to copy everything. Then I'm going to change the permissions on the main Apache directory from where the contents are served to Apache. Okay, so Apache is the user that is used to run the Apache application. So we're going to change the permissions from on this directory and to all the files and subdirectories within this. So we're using -R to do it recursively. So this is all related to Apache configuration. Okay, so change the permission to Apache, the user ownership and group ownership of this folder. Then we are going to restart the service to apply all the changes. All right, the Apache service is restarted. Then step 3 is configure the Drupal website from the UI. To do that, you have to copy the public IP address of your EC2 instance and use a browser to access the web page. So to do that, from here I can copy the public IP, and let me just paste in Go to this public IP. So we have already installed Apache where we have configured it. Okay, so we will see the page to configure our Drupal application. So choose language English, that's fine, save and continue. Use the standard installation, save and continue. Then here you have to specify the name of the database. If you remember, the name of the database in our RDS instance is Drupal DB. Okay, so if you are not sure, you can go to your RDS instance and go to configuration and check the name of the DB name. So this is going to be DB name, which is Drupal DB in my case. Drupal DB. And database user, I created a user called Drupal with password Drupal. Okay, so user is going to be Drupal and password is going to be Drupal. Under advanced options, you will get the option to specify the endpoint of your RDS instance. That is going to be the host. Okay, so go to connection and security and copy this endpoint and specify it here. Replace it with localhost. Port number is 3306, which is the default port, and that's the same port we are also using in our RDS instance, so leave it as it is. And just click on save and continue. So this is the way you configure your Drupal application from the UI. Okay, so whatever database user we created, database user and password, we have to specify the same here because this application is going to use those credentials to connect to the RDS database behind the scenes. Then you can specify any site name. So it can be any name. So in my case, let it be TechApplicate. I'm going to use my official email address. Username, I'm going to use TechApplicate. Password, it can be anything. And just click on save and continue. So these are the credentials that you will be using to manage the website as an site administrator. Okay, so you need to remember the username and password that you use on this configuration page also, so that you can create the database. Okay, so now I can see the default page configured. All right, so this is the default blogging website that you have just configured using Drupal platform. Okay, this is fine. Now let's try to generate some content or generate some data, okay, to see if the database is actually being written to the RDS instance behind the scenes. So to do that, you can go to content. Let's see if anything is left from our end. All good. So we have configured the website from the UI. Now we are going to write some test blocks to generate relational data in the form of tables and rows. Okay, tables, which is going to be rows and columns. Just make the correction, rows and columns. Okay, so let's just see if we are able to generate the data. So you can go to add content. And you can choose any of these two options. Let's go to article and let's just choose anything like DevOps. For example, DevOps is the title, and in the body also let's just write DevOps. Okay, and then just save and publish. So it's going to create another page for us. So this is going to generate some additional database, some additional data which will be part of our database. So article DevOps has been created. Now how to check if we have actually created this data or not? So to do that, I have mentioned some MySQL commands. Once again, the font color is blue, which means these are the MySQL commands and not the normal Linux commands. So let me log into my MySQL. Let me use my MySQL CLI to connect to the RDS instance and see if we are able to see this data that we have just created. Okay, so you can use this command again to connect to your RDS instance. Specify the password, enter. So you're logged in here. Now let's try to run these commands. Okay, so if you see here, if you go to show tables, you will see a lot of different tables as part of this database. Okay, so there are multiple tables there because we have configured a lot of things on the configuration page, so it has generated these tables. So out of these tables, if you want to see the data that we just generated, we have to use this node underscore field underscore data table. So this is the name of the table. So if I do select star from node field data, it means that I'm trying to retrieve all the data from this table. Okay, so let's just try to run this command and see what happens. So if you see, we have some data in the form of table. The table has rows and columns. Okay, so this is the relational database that we were talking about inside the RDS instance. So we are able to visualize the data that we just created. So if you see here, I just created one article with the title DevOps. Okay, so all that information is available in this. So this is called one data point. Okay, now let's try to create another data point and see if you're able to see in this table, node field data table inside this database. So let's go to here. Let's go to your website and click on content again. Click on add content. So let's choose to create an article. And let's just write second article. Okay, so I'm trying to generate I'm trying to generate some more data so that we can visualize it from the database instance. So this second article has also been created. Now if I go back here and run the same command, you will see two data points. Okay, so now we are able to create the relational database. So this is how the data is stored inside a database, which is part of an RDS instance, and this is how you can run the structured query languages to query your data. Okay, so here I've used star, which means all the data from this table. Okay, I'm able to see this, but if you want to filter the data, you can use some other commands like this. So what I'm trying to do here is I just want to filter the output with the type of article from the same table, from this table. So if I do this, I'll just get the type, which is article in my case. Similarly, if you want to filter out on other fields, other columns, for example, title, you can run the same command with title. That means you just want to extract the title field, which is this one. So you will see a title as DevOps and second article. So in this way, you can run multiple type of queries. Of course, this is a very simple database. In an enterprise setup, the database is going to be very complicated, and so is your structured query languages. Okay, but on a very high level, this is how you can visualize the data that is being generated from your web application to the RDS instance. Okay, one more query I want to use is from another table called users field data. So when we were trying to configure this Drupal website, we created some details. We created some user information there. So let's just see the information from this users field data. It's going to store all that information that we configured from the UI. So I created one user like this tech applicate with this Gmail ID, right? So all that is stored in this table, which is users underscore field underscore data. So similarly, if you see all the tables here, so these tables, store all the information or all the data that you generate from your website. So so all these tables store different type of data. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an example of how you can visualize the data that is generated from your application to the database inside the RDS instance. Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover. I hope this video was useful and you have learned a lot from this. If it was, please hit the like button. Please share it with your friends and colleagues, and please subscribe to my channel so that I keep coming up with these type of learning videos, so that you can be a better cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer in your organization. Or if you have if you dream of getting a job in this field, so you can get closer to it by learning from all these videos. I hope this video was useful to all of you. Alright guys, I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye for now.